This is Family Like a Coach, and we're live doing a video podcast with Izabeyah Shower, or Izabeyah Shower. Sorry, and we sent you the questions, so I hope you have all the questions. We're going to go through our video interview. You're an artist from Kansas. Where do you live in Kansas?
Wichita.
Oh, cool. So you've been writing since you were 6 years old, right?
Well, I've been playing piano since I was 5 years old, and then I played violin and saxophone growing up as well. And then when I was 18, I learned the guitar, and that's when I kind of began songwriting.
Mm-hmm. So at 18, you used the guitar as your primary writing instrument?
Right.
And then later, it says that you learned saxophone and violin as well?
Yeah, that was in high school, elementary school and high school.
Oh, okay. Did you pick up piano to do when you songcraft? Is everything from the guitar perspective, or do you use like a MIDI keyboard or anything like that?
Yeah, I use a keyboard and a synthesizer.
Mm-hmm.
I think primarily I use the keyboard more than I do the guitar.
Oh yeah, I'm a keyboardist myself, and that's a really good writing instrument.
Yeah, it is.
And so, I usually start off as the first question was when did you get into music? You said you started, at a very young age, and you really got a guitar at 18. So, would you say your singer-songwriting craft did it start at 18 or before that?
I think at 18 is when it began.
Mm-hmm. So when did you originally start writing your own music, or were you just trying to learn covers and learn your instrument, or did you immediately have an inclination to write your own songs?
Well, when I first began the guitar, I learned by playing other people's songs. And then I kind of learned, I took some guitar lessons once, and she gave me a lesson on theory. And it just kind of opened my eyes to the music writing field when I learned that little bit of theory and what goes behind writing a song. And it just all clicked with me. And that's when I began songwriting.
Mm-hmm. So did you have particular influences? Who were your musical heroes or people that you use as reference points in your music?
Yeah, I would say alternative bands is what kind of got me started with guitar playing.
Mm-hmm.
So back in the day, there was Silverchair, bands
mm-hmm.
like that. That kind of got me into it because I started learning on an electric guitar.
Yep. Yeah, because I kind of hear, when I was listening to your music, these are some of the sounds I heard. I heard Dale Bozzio from Missing Persons. She used to play with Frank Zappa. And I hear some Cyndi Lauper, some Yoko Ono type influences.
Yeah.
Nico from the Velvet Underground. I hear a lot of experimental kind of new wave or new romantic sounds.
Yeah.
Being I'm kind of a big purveyor of new romantic. I'm a synthesizer player, so I kind of grew up with Genesis and Yes, but then I got into a lot of the new wave bands like New Order, Duran Duran, Flock and Seagull, that type of sound. And I'm a synth player. I have Moog and Jupiters and Rolands and Yamahas, and that's the sound I grew up with. And I do hear a lot of new wave in your music, or what people would call today synth wave, but it kind of started with new wave. I do hear that.
Yeah, I've labeled my music new wave in the past.
Yeah, I do hear it.
Yeah.
Did you like that era?
I did. Yeah, I love 80s music and 80s bands. That's one of my favorite music. I even said in the past that I was going to try to make 80s style type music that was more modern.
Yeah, it's the synth wave. You get bands like Churches. If you've heard them, they kind of brought that new wave. They're actually using the keyboard from that time period. They actually went back and got Rolands and Moogs, and they just have this sound. It's it seems to be kind of resurgent. There's a lot of people who are going back to that era and taking pieces of it and put it in their music, and you can kind of hear it in your music as well. So like the question I would always ask is like, what genre do you think you're in? A lot of people, say, well, I don't want to be kind of tied down to a genre, but you said yourself that you felt like you were going to do some new wave stuff. But if someone was going to ask you today how you market your music, what genre would you tell like a radio DJ or somebody that's going to put your music on the radio? What would you tell them that your genre is?
When I distribute music, I always label it as pop. But when I submit it like online for billboards, I label it new wave because they don't have an option for pop on there.
Yeah.
So I label it new wave there.
Mm-hmm. But I do hear it and I do feel it, in a lot of your music. So I kind of usually get into like the production aspects of music. And as a singer-songwriter, a lot of us end up having to do a lot of production work ourselves. So do you do a lot of stuff on your digital audio workstation, or do you bring it to a producer to finalize it, or do you do most of the production work yourself?
I do the production work myself on a DAW. And right now I'm currently going to school at the LA Film School. Mm-hmm. So I'm studying music production and audio engineering there. At this time, I just began, so I'm new.
Which DAW do you like to use? What's your preferred DAW?
Pro Tools.
Yeah, that's a very popular one. I mean, I'm kind of in this new phase where I was into DAWs, and now I've gotten into like DAW-less recording, where a lot of like artists today are trying to use like groove boxes, like Akai MPCs and 707s, and just kind of get back to the old school of the 80s. Sometimes when you're writing songs, it's like you could go back to like Bruce Springsteen on a 4-track recorder doing Nebraska, where you go back and do it real simple, or you go and use the complexity of the DAWs. You can get really, really deep into it. And then sometimes you want to I want to do an unplugged. I just want to take an acoustic guitar or an acoustic piano and just record it kind of simply. So do you ever find yourself like, okay, I have all this technology in a DAW, but do I want to simplify it or go really deep into it? I guess you're learning, but do you have an opinion?
I like the DAW, actually.
So you find it useful?
Yeah, I do. I really like the things you can do with it, and it's just something I feel like I need that for my music. I don't know.
Well, I think what it does is it gives you like the control that you used to only be able to. You had to go get a producer, you had to get a recording engineer, and if you didn't have the money to spend, 2 weeks or 2 days in our studio, now you can kind of just do it wherever you are. And so I think that kind of equalizes it, and then you can take the time. It's a lot of it just taking the time to actually put the production in. If you had to do it the old way, because I'm in my 50s, you had to go into the studio and you had to pay a lot of money for the producers and the recording engineers and the mastering. And, sometimes you were limited in what you could do. But now your own DAW, you could take whatever time it takes and you're not on the clock. So you find that it gives you a lot of, power over, some people are, when it comes to music, they really want to control the vision of what you want to do. Do you find you have a lot more control over how you want to present yourself?
Right. Yeah. Like I was really excited when I got my first DAW. It was just something so new and something it was kind of like a dream. I've always wanted to be able to do this, and the DAW made it possible for me to do that.
Yeah, because a lot of times it's like now, it's like with the DAW, you could if you in the old days, if you wanted an orchestra, you had to go get an orchestra. If you wanted a bass, you had to go find somebody that could play that bass. Find somebody to play a cello or something, or a saxophone. Now with the DAW, if you can compose it, if you can think it out or write it out on the grid, you can add that you can find a soft synth and bring in whatever sound from whatever era you want. You want to bring a 1920 German piano into the sound, you can go find one and bring it in. You want a really good acoustic guitar, if you want a spring reverb or a digital delay or space echo, all these like technical things that you would have to go to Olympia Sound Studio. You'd have to go to like Abbey Road to get a certain sound. You don't have to do that. You can actually get that sound.
Yeah. And there's so much variety, so many options that you have out there in the digital world right now with instruments that you can use and sounds. It's just really nice.
Yeah, I mean, I understand it, that whole aspect. It's just that as a musician, I'm kind of old school in that I use like Hammond B3s and like real like old synthesizers, because it's a certain sound I'm trying to get in my music, and I find that the hardware version, and I've had the time to collect them. So there's certain guys that I kind of hang with are all we're kind of old school. The DJs I hang with are DJs that use vinyl instead of CDJs, and the synthesizer players I play with, they use the actual Moogs rather than the soft synths. But it's something you can do if you have that capability. But when you put down your tracks, do you ever do you work or collaborate with other people? Do you have other people that you work with, or because you go into school, you kind of take advantage of your classes to kind of give you more capabilities? Do you like collaborate with other folks?
I never have. I've had people talk to me about collaborating, but it's never taken off. I've never collaborated with anyone. I would like to.
Yeah, in the industry today, there's a lot of people that feature. If you look at in the whole business today, a lot of it is based on being a feature on somebody's record, or playing bass on somebody's record, or doing a vocal on somebody's record. So that's a good way to kind of cross promote yourself in the industry. It seems to be a cool thing if you ever get into that. It's hard, like if you have your own style that's very specific to work with other people. Then
I think I might have fallen into that problem a little bit.
Yeah, I think it's always good to like, it's like working in a band is like working on a team. It's like if you're on a sports team, or you're in a team at work, when you get into a band, then it suddenly becomes like, okay, well, I have to compromise.
Yeah.
I've been a solo artist and I've been in bands, and if I tend to be the songwriter, and so if I get into a band and I'm writing the song, then suddenly I bring the song to the band, and the bass player changes the bass part. The drummer plays, he's a drummer. He can change my drum machine part to a real percussion part that he's going to interpret. And that part of it is like the compromise you make as working as a team to figure out who's bringing the best A game to the project, and then say, okay, I'll let that go because the bass player actually did a better line than what I could do, or the guitar player played something different than what I could do. And it's just cool to do that. You learn how to integrate yourself with other people.
Yeah, I would like to collaborate with like a rap artist or an electronic music artist.
Yeah, I think that's kind of like the kind of trend today, is to find ways to bring in other genres into your genre. So that's cool. Now you've got a bunch of projects that are out there. I was looking at some of your 2020 releases. So you have like Can You Tell, and you got Shareth Time, and Tourniquet. So which do you want to talk about first? Are your 2020 releases?
You Shareth Time is an album. Tourniquet is an EP that has 3 songs on it. So I had a little bit of a problem with my album release, You Shareth Time. It just didn't come out on the day it was supposed to come out. And so they kind of got released close together.
Oh, so they all kind of came out simultaneously. Yeah. That's always trouble. Sometimes it's like that's the hard thing when you're like your own management. Or if you're working with people, it's like you work with the distributors, and then if they don't do what you want. It's like it was a story where there was a famous rapper named Earl Sweatshirt, and he was trying to like drop an album without anybody knowing about it, to be like this, like just drop it and no press, just do it. And suddenly somebody in the press leaked it out.
Oh.
When he didn't want it leaked out, and it has totally wrecked his whole campaign.
Oh.
I mean, it's very common that things in the music world, sometimes it doesn't go the way you want.
Yeah.
Which project did you want to have actually come out first?
It was You Shareth Time.
That was
come out first, the album.
And then the other ones were supposed to come out like staggered.
Yeah.
So which project do you think is the one that I guess you like the best as an artist? Do you like everything you do, or do you have a particular out of your 2020 work, which set of songs or projects is the one that's like closest to your heart right now?
Well, right now I have a release coming out July 31st. It's called He and Her, May 11th, 2020. So that one is probably closest to my heart. I feel like as time goes on, I've progressed as an artist. So I just feel like the more recent releases that I have come out are just better than the ones that were previous.
So that album, you really think you're kind of grown as an artist, and you're feeling it. I know I put out a lot of material as the Ghost, and most of the time I'll say like, well, whatever I put out this week is where I'm at.
Yeah.
Yeah, and sometimes I have like a favorite tune in my catalog that I say, oh, this song is the one I really, really like. Is there a song you've done since you've become, an artist out there that you think is like your signature song? If you're going to show somebody your style, what would be the song that is your signature song?
I really like I'll Be the One to Say When. I just did a YouTube video for that song. I just released it, and so I think that one is one that I really like.
That's the one you think it captures what you're trying to convey as an artist?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, every artist has their song, and then you have the songs that the fans actually like. So do you ever, like, from the feedback with your fans, do you ever get surprised which song you've written that the fans like versus what you like in your catalog?
Well, I'm not sure. It just seems like the fans kind of like the same ones that I would assume would be popular, more, easy to listen to rather than just, something that I primarily like. Like I would say Can You Tell is popular.
Okay.
And that one, I mean, and I say that because it's kind of easy to listen to.
It's more something you think people could approach or easily get into, where sometimes as an artist you do something more complicated or something that's more personal, it maybe doesn't connect the same way that you did something that's more catchy. If you do a really catchy, really cool beat, or you got a good lick, you got a good tempo going on, then people get drawn to that.
Right.
Like Prince, everybody's like, oh, 1999, keep on playing, or Purple Rain. But in his catalog, he got stuff that's like deeper than that. And then he would always want to go. I used to see him. I used to go see when he was out playing. And I'd see all the fans, and they were like, oh, they would keep on yelling Purple Rain. But I wanted to hear a deeper track. Like I wanted to hear something they never played. So I yell out some like obscure track, and it's like everybody. I mean, like, what do you want to hear that for? Because that's the kind of where I go. But yeah, it's interesting what musicians, how you deal with it. Have you done a lot of live performing, or are you primarily like a streaming artist?
I'm a streaming artist, but I do want to get out and do more live. I've done a live performance once for one song, but it wasn't like a concert or anything like that. But I do want to go out and start touring.
Have you thought, like, in this age of doing like live streams from like a live stream, kind of like Facebook Live, or
Yeah, I thought about doing that before. I think I've done it once on Twitter.
Yeah, because Instagram, there's a lot of people doing like live streaming on Instagram. There's that video game platform Twitch. There's a lot of musicians have, because of coronavirus and they can't get to the venues.
Right, and that's exactly when I started going out and playing live, is right before the coronavirus.
Oh yeah, yeah. Because I used to play in New York and Boston. I'm in the Northeast, so the funny thing is, where I live in New Hampshire, nobody's into the type of music I'm into. Everybody's into like folk music and country music. So the only way I can get, an audience is I got to go into New York City and go play in Manhattan and play in the Bronx and play in Queens. Yeah. It's fine because it takes like 5 hours to get there, but it's like that's where the audience is, and I'm not that far away. So I'm like, if I'm gonna play, it makes more sense than playing in Concord, New Hampshire, or go play in New York City. Like, it's a kind of no-brainer. You're going to play New York.
Yeah.
Where you are, are there a lot of venues to play for indie artists, or do you have to go to is it hard to find a place to play?
Well, like the places to play here, they're kind of like cover bands, the majority of them.
Oh yeah, just kind of cover bands.
For indie artists to find a place to play, because they're kind of for cover artists.
Yeah, it was interesting. I saw a documentary on the band Kansas, and the big famous rock band, and they had said that they were just really lucky that they had this really awesome agent from LA that somehow found them playing in Kansas City, I think, and then brought them to LA, and then they got big, and it was like this kind of like, wow, that's like they were able to get bigger than what they would have thought they could have done, because they couldn't get enough places to play. So they had to go to LA, they had to go to Colorado, they had to go to New York to get that. So as an artist, have you thought that, well, maybe I have to go beyond where you are to get?
Yeah, I almost moved to Kansas City about 2 weeks ago. I had plans. I mean, everything was set to go, and I just changed my mind at the last minute. I don't know why. I had a job in Kansas City and everything, and I just changed my mind and decided to come here.
Maybe when at the right time you'll make that move, because that's kind of like what you got to do to progress. But maybe it wasn't the right time right now. But
exactly. I do believe I need that to get out of Wichita.
Yeah, just because it might not have the scene. It's kind of like, you got to get into the scene. I've actually started working with some guys in Seattle, because that's still a really big scene. It was known for grunge, but there's still actually right now there's actually a really big hip hop scene in Seattle, which I wasn't aware of until I started connecting with some guys out there. And it's just interesting, like regionally what the scenes are, in terms of the type of music. Like New York City is like every scene. you can find new wave, you can find hip hop, you can find jazz, fusion, heavy metal. If you just go around the Bronx or Manhattan, you find all these clubs, and they just do everything. And the great thing about New York, if you get to New York, is like bands that play their own material. It's like the best place in the world besides LA, because you just go, if you go into New York City, and the cool thing is, like, there's music bloggers, there's guys from like Rolling Stone and Spin Magazine, the reporters in these clubs, and they're looking for new bands, and in these clubs they want people not just singing cover bands, they want to hear new material. It's like the CBGBs of the world. They're just still places where they want to hear new material. And I think for indie artists, like that's always what you want.
I definitely need to make a move.
If you can ever get somebody to get you to go to New York or get to LA and get to the Viper Club, that's the Viper Room. That's kind of like where you want to go. Whiskey a Go-Go, Viper Room, CBGBs. These type of clubs are where indie artists can kind of break through.
Yeah,
yes, definitely. But this other thing going on with these podcasts, like what I'm doing is another way to get artists all from around the world, to get traction, because we can push this out and get people. And a lot of people that listen to me are like producers, they're musicians, they're small record labels. So hopefully we can get the word out on what you're doing in your projects. We're pushing your link to your Spotify, and we can push out other things.
I appreciate that a lot.
We're also I think we're gonna push out your overall website too. I think I'm sending that out right now on the bottom.
Thank you so much. I appreciate this.
Well, I think it's like what I found is a couple of years ago, I got brought into this podcasting because I was on SoundCloud and some radio guy out of New York City named Rock Tunes said, "Hey, I want to interview you. Can I hear all this stuff on SoundCloud?" So he put me on the show. And then I said, "Hey, why don't I go and try to interview all these guys on Instagram? Why don't we go out and try to find all these Instagram artists and interview them?" So back in 2016, I started doing that. And then I switched platforms and now I'm on multiple platforms, but it's just been a really cool trip because I've actually, been able to collaborate and work with people, work with producers, work with musicians, work with music directors and stuff. And you never know, you go do something for free and then things come out from it, or you do something and then you get to a place where suddenly you start earning money from it. You didn't try to earn money. As musicians, a lot of times we just do it because we love it. You do music because you love it. You're gonna do it. You want to be successful, but you just, a lot of times when I talk to artists or creators, why do you do what you do, right? You love it, right?
It all just kind of comes together that way, though.
Yeah, I think what I find is that the more you believe in what you're doing, then you'll find other people start to believe in you.
Right, exactly.
Yeah,
that's so true. You definitely need to believe in yourself.
Yeah, it's the way this industry is. I mean, there are always going to be people that will try to get you to sound like somebody else. Mm-hmm. But what I found is if you're true to your own sound, people will come to your sound.
Yeah.
So I know that you said you had a previous engagement, so we'll try to give you some more. We'll kind of finish this out. Well, ask some questions. Like if you could tell your fans anything that you think they should know about you, what would you say to them that maybe they didn't know?
I think a lot of my music kind of focuses on independence. I have a very independent attitude, so I don't like to be offensive, but I'm not sure how people who are more religion based would accept me. Mm-hmm. But I am a very independent person, and that's what I focus on in my music a lot is independence.
Yeah, like that free spirit. I think a lot of times, in the 60s, it was more common to see a lot of artists that were like really opening up. You look at like a Hendrix, like a Frank Zappa. You look at like a lot of interesting artists like even Dylan. They were really kind of expanding people's horizons, and it's like not being pinned down. And I've always been drawn to the people that would like push the envelope, whether it was jazz fusion with Miles Davis or listen to Zappa and the Mothers of Invention or like the Grateful Dead. It's just to be able to be out there and be an artist and not care. The Dead were famously doing these like 20-minute songs.
And I do want to get more hardcore. I do. I plan on getting more hardcore than I am right now.
Oh, getting more like punk, a little bit grunge.
Yeah, a little bit more extreme than I am right now.
That's always good. I always like, I'm a big fan of The Clash. I'm a big fan of like Garbage and heavier bands like Trent Reznor and Nine Inch Nails. Yeah, that stuff is always good. A good Edge, a good Ramones tune's good any day.
Yeah.
So we're glad to have you on the program.
Thank you so much for having me.
We're gonna push this out to our YouTube channel, and we'll give you the link, and we'll send you like through your email like the MPEG of this, so you can kind of push it wherever you want. And then we're also going to take the audio and put it on our sister program on Anchor FM, which will then get it out to Spotify podcast, Apple podcast, and it'll 9 platform. So it will get pushed out all over the place. There'll be audio versions of this and video versions, and so we're hopeful that this will help give your music a boost and get you out there.
Yeah, thank you so much. I appreciate you.
Thank you very much. Everybody check this episode out on your favorite platform within the next hour or two. We'll be out there. So thank you very much for being on the program.
All right, thanks.